we gather to commemorate the 19 brave warriors, including 12 valiant nomads, who made the ultimate sacrifice defending our freedom during this attack. I am Master Sergeant John Toth, and I will be your narrator for today's event. On behalf of the 33rd Fighter Wing, thank you for taking the time to honor our fallen brothers during this 25th anniversary memorial ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of the colors, playing of the national anthem, and we invite you to remain standing for the invocation.
Hard time. Cut. Home. Present. Home. Horse. Home. Colors turn. Heart.
Please join me as I pray. Today, as each of us awoke and the warm Florida breeze ushered upon us a new day, a certain spirit of honor and patriotism filled the air. Loving God, with that, I know your presence is with us as we gather in the midst of this magnificent memorial. And Father, 25 years ago today, 19 of your most courageous children, while answering our nation's call, paid the ultimate sacrifice. Gracious God, you have taught us self-sacrifice is defined as the giving up of one's own interest or wishes in order to help others. We stand here beyond grateful, Lord, that you created and sent these valiant airmen to serve in the capacity of defending our nation's precious gift of freedom. Lord, help us to see that remembering and honoring these heroes is only half of our mission. As I look at this wall, I see the hearts of 12 nomads who charge us today with ensuring we carry on their love for country, devotion to duty, and memory as we take the watch and shoulder the cause of freedom. In closing, I ask, Lord, even though our hearts are heavy and these 12 nomads have ceased their wandering, may we take their memory, may we take their dreams, and may we carry each of their legacies high and proud, standing tall, always moving forward, and pass them on to every future nomad. For I humbly ask these things in your name today. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We would like to thank all family members and friends, as well as survivors of the Khobar Towers tragedy who are in attendance at today's ceremony. At this time, we would like to acknowledge the families of our fallen nomads who have joined us here today. If you would like to be recognized, please feel free to stand when your family member's name is called. The family of Airmen First Class Joseph Reemkes. The family of Airmen First Class Brent Marthaler. The family of Airmen First Class Joshua Woody. The family of Staff Sergeant D. Campbell. The family of Senior Airman Jeremy Taylor. The family of Technical Sergeant Tan Nguyen. We truly appreciate your attendance at today's ceremony. If there are any other family members in attendance today, or any survivors of the Khobar Towers tragedy joining us, please feel free to stand or raise your hand at this time. Thank you. It is an honor to have you all here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Commander, 33rd Fighter Wing, Colonel John Wheeler.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nomads, and especially survivors, friends, and families. Today marks 25 years of honoring the sacrifice of our 19 lost airmen, 12 Nomads. I'd like to thank you for the trust you have bestowed upon the 33rd Fighter Wing to pay tribute to our heroes for the past quarter of a century. It is my humble honor to introduce our first distinguished speaker. General Charles Chuck Horner served in the U.S. Air Force for more than 36 years. He's a command pilot with more than 5,300 hours, including 111 combat missions over North Vietnam in the F-105. He commanded at multiple levels in the Air Force. While serving as the commander of 9th Air Force, he also commanded all U.S. Central Command Air Forces and command of all U.S. and Allied air assets during Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. During his final assignment, General Horner was the commander of North American Aerospace Defense Command and the U.S. Space Command. Ladies and gentlemen, General Horner.
Good morning. My challenge today was to get into this uniform after 25 years. 31 years ago, Desert Storm ended with a very successful combat experience in which the 33rd Wing was a vital element of shooting down more Iraqi airplanes than any other. But there was an unintended consequence that arose from our liberation of Kuwait. More than 500,000 Americans deployed to the Middle East. And many in the Middle East, be they Shia or Sunni or Sufi, very religious, or anti-Israel or anti-Arab or anti-Persian, all these diverse groups all took umbrage with our presence in their countries. And they thought that they needed to eject us as best they could. Now these are very small numbers because remember, the liberation of Kuwait was a coalition of Arab and American co-commanders, General Schwarzkopf and Saudi Prince Khalid bin Sultan. So it wasn't really an Islamic versus Christian type umbrage these people were taking. And we have many, many allies. But these hatred groups had no military forces. So they resorted to acts of terrorists, and hence the term War on Terror, America's longest war and still ongoing to some extent. The first event of any really sizable damage to the United States was the Khobar Tower bombing. And it was a combination of a Persian, Shia Saudi, and an anti-Israeli Lebanese person. And they unleashed these attacks, and of course we know that. We also should remember that over 500 non-U.S. people were killed or injured in this attack as well. We've honored many firsts in our history. We got Bunker Hill for the Revolutionary War, we got Fort Sumter for the Civil War, we got the Maine for the Spanish-American War, and of course the big one was Remember Pearl Harbor. So remembrance of an initial battle in a long war is not unusual in American history. And it's fitting that we do remember that, because what it does is allows us to remember those who were killed or injured in the attack. We can use our military now to deter terrorist attack, to interdict them before they happen, or to limit the damage that occurs. But we're not going to solve this problem because the people that are committing the acts of terror feel justified by either their hatred, their prejudice, or their fear of change. And so as a result, we will use our military, but we're not going to win the war on terror with military means. We can only win it by following the two great commandments. First, that we love God, which will force us all to compel the rejection of evil, and that we love our neighbor, which will allow us to understand other people and come to find the good in them as human beings. So remember that we're here, that we need to reject hate wherever we find it, in ourselves and in others, and to resist evil wherever it occurs. And so it is an honor that we have here. I'm sorry that sword is so hot, but nonetheless, and I did get in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, General Horner. I also have the pleasure to welcome and introduce to you Colonel Retired Doug Cochran. Colonel Cochran served with distinction for 23 years. He flew as a command pilot with over 3,100 hours, with the vast majority of those hours in the F-15 Eagle. His decorations include the Legion of Merit with 2 oak leaf clusters, the Air Medal with oak leaf cluster, and the Purple Heart. He commanded at the squadron and group level and was the commander of the 58th Fighter Squadron on June 25, 1996, as the guerrillas participated in Operation Southern Watch. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Cochran.
To the family and friends of our fallen warriors, General Horner, Colonel Wheeler, the survivors and their families, local civic leaders, those not able to attend but are joining us virtually, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us during this time of remembrance. 25 years ago, we were called upon to deploy to Southwest Asia in support of Operation Southern Watch, enforcing the UN no-fly zone in the southern part of Iraq. Whether we deployed as intact units or filling individual positions, this tasking was no surprise to us as members of the U.S. military. We were trained to respond anywhere in the world to deter aggression and promote regional peace and stability. This was my second deployment to Dhahran in 2 years, so I had a familiarity with the mission and location. This tour differed, however, in that the threat level was higher and security measures were stepped up. Just before 10 p.m. local time on the 25th of June, 1996, 2 days prior to the 58th Fighter Squadron returning home to Eglin Air Force Base, the world's second largest non-nuclear explosion, second only to the explosion in Beirut, Lebanon last year, detonated outside Building 131 in the Khobar Towers complex in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. In the chaotic aftermath, we would sadly discover we lost 19 brave warriors, with 500 wounded that perilous night. To the families of our fallen heroes, words alone cannot express our sympathy for your loss and our sincere appreciation of you and your loved ones' outstanding service and sacrifice to our country. While heroic stories of sacrifice or gratitude on behalf of our nation for the loss of your loved one may seem insufficient to the measure of the emotional consequences you've endured, please know your loved one's sacrifice has allowed our country to be what it is today, a place of freedom. They are dearly missed, and we will never forget nor take for granted their sacrifice. Never. You are in my thoughts and prayers every day. We knew and know the inherent risks, yet we commit ourselves to defending our country. Our heroes wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their lives. These checks were cashed in on that horrific night as they made the ultimate sacrifice for their country. We have stood on the shoulders of these giants during their service and continue to do so in our hearts as we honor their memories. To the survivors, you have experienced an unimaginable trauma and endured the loss of friends and comrades in arms. Many of you bear visible scars, many with invisible scars, and for some, both. This tragedy has taken its toll in sleepless nights, hypervigilance, fatigue, and other symptoms of PTSD over the years. As one of our very own Joe Yeichner put it, our war may be over, but our battles still rage on. Some of you may be having flashbacks and anxiety after seeing the scenes of the building collapse in Miami recently. Please know you are not alone. It is imperative we talk to trained professionals and each other about our painful experience. Many suffer from the feeling of guilt, wondering, why was I spared? What is God's plan for me? We need to press on, live our lives, and support each other in search of our next purpose in life. Our fallen comrades would have insisted on this. Many of you, as well as many of the family members, have taken a horrendous experience and turned it positive by accomplishing some amazing things. A few examples are supporting families who have lost a military loved one, or providing security protection for presidents, or providing life-saving actions to a first responder. There are many similar stories, too numerous to mention here. We should all do our best to honor their memory by living a life equal to the measure of their sacrifice every day. If you are experiencing distress, I urge you to seek assistance. Additionally, the VA offers a confidential crisis hotline with qualified responders, many of whom are veterans themselves. To our current military members and their families, thank you for your service, dedication, and commitment, carrying the torch as guardians of our freedom. There are many sacrifices required in the profession of military arms. The world is a dangerous place, and your role is crucial in maintaining our security from outside threats. Often this involves deploying to global locations. We will continue to support you and advocate to our elected officials to ensure that you have the best training and equipment to carry out your missions. Thank you for joining us today as we honor and remember those brave warriors who have gone before us. The old saying goes, the hours seem to crawl by, but the years fly by. Time takes all, except our memories. Some recollections are still fresh, and others more distant. Some good, some bad. We try to work through the bad memories and try to embrace the good ones. Today, we embrace the fond memories of our fallen comrades. They leave a legacy of honor, strength, and commitment. We try to emulate the love they had for their families, friends, and our country, and we try to live up to their high standards. We recently observed Memorial Day to pay homage to those who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect our country. For me, every day is Memorial Day, as I think about and thank our fallen heroes and their families. President Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address, as he paid tribute to those who fought and died for their cause, they gave the last full measure of devotion. Gone, but not forgotten, our heroes are forever in our hearts and memories. Thank you all for your attendance and support. Risa sends her best to all. Thank you to Team Nomad for hosting this commemorative ceremony. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, General Horner, Colonel Cochran, Colonel Wheeler. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the wreath-laying ceremony. Chief Master Sergeant Harper, will you please join Colonel Cochran to place the wreath in honor of our fallen brothers? Chief Harper is a survivor of the Khobar Towers bombing and is currently serving as the superintendent of the 33rd Aircraft Maintenance Squadron. We honor the 19 fearless warriors who made the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom 25 years ago today.
Captain Christopher Adams.
Captain Adams enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1988 in his hometown, Massapequa Park, New York. He was assigned as the HC-130 aircraft commander for the 71st Rescue Squadron, Patrick Air Force Base, Florida.
Captain Leland Hahn.
Captain Hahn enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1988 from his hometown of Fresno County, California. He was assigned as a C-130 navigator for the 71st Rescue Squadron, Patrick Air Force Base, Florida.
Master Sergeant Michael Heiser.
Sergeant Heiser enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1979 from his hometown of Palm Coast, Florida. He was assigned as an airborne communications and electronic system technician for the 71st Rescue Squadron, Patrick Air Force Base, Florida.
Master Sergeant Kendall Kitson Jr.
Sergeant Kitson enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1978 from his hometown of Yukon, Oklahoma. He was assigned as the production superintendent for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Technical Sergeant Daniel Safork.
Sergeant Saforik enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1983 from his hometown of Watertown, South Dakota. He was assigned as a dedicated crew chief for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Technical Sergeant Patrick Finning.
Sergeant Fennig enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1980 from his hometown of Greendale, Wisconsin. He was assigned as a flight line expediter for the 60th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Technical Sergeant Todd Gus Wynn.
Sergeant Wynn enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1980 from his hometown of Panama City, Florida. He was assigned as a Gold Flag Corps member for the 33rd Logistics Group, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Staff Sergeant Kevin Johnson.
Sergeant Johnson enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1982 from his hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana. He was assigned as a flight engineer for the 71st Rescue Squadron, Patrick Air Force Base, Florida.
Staff Sergeant Ronald King.
Sergeant King enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1980 from his hometown of Battle Creek, Michigan. He was assigned as a finance technician for the 55th Contracting Squadron, Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska.
Staff Sergeant D. Campbell.
Sergeant Campbell enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1985 from his hometown of Angleton, Texas. He was assigned as an assistant non-commissioned officer in charge of Operations Resource Management for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Senior Airman Earl Cartret, Jr.
Airman Cartret enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1993 from his hometown of Sellersburg, Indiana. He was assigned as a support section technician for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Senior Airman Jeremy Taylor.
Airman Taylor enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1992 from his hometown of Rose Hill, Kansas. He was assigned as a jet engine technician for the 33rd Maintenance Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Airman First Class Christopher Lester.
Airman Lester enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1995 from his hometown of Pineville, West Virginia. He was assigned as an electrical power production specialist for the 88th Civil Engineering Group, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio.
Airman First Class Brent Marthaler.
Airman Marthaler enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1994 from his hometown of Cambridge, Minnesota. He was assigned as a dedicated crew chief for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Airman First Class Brian McVeigh.
Airman McVeigh enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1994 from his hometown of DeBary, Florida. He was assigned as a dedicated crew chief for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Airman First Class Peter Morgira.
Airman Morgera enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1993 from his hometown of Stratham, New Hampshire. He was assigned as an end-of-runway crew member for the 33rd Operations Support Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Airman First Class Joseph Reamkes.
Airman Reamkes enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1995 from his hometown of Edwardsville, Illinois. He was assigned as a weapons load crew member for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida.
Airman First Class Justin Wood.
Airman Wood enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1994 from his hometown of Modesto, California. He was assigned as a loadmaster for the 71st Rescue Squadron, Patrick Air Force Base, Florida.
Airman First Class Joshua Woody.
Airman Woody enlisted in the United States Air Force in 1995 from his hometown of Corning, California. He was assigned as a weapons load crew member for the 58th Fighter Squadron, Eglin Air Force Base, Florida. We'd like to take a moment to pass on our deepest condolences and pay our respects to our former Nomad and Khobar Towers survivor, Chief Master Sergeant retired Jose Matos, who recently passed away. Some of Chief Matos' family members are here with us today. We are truly sorry for your loss. We hope you will take comfort in knowing that Chief Matos will always be a part of the 33rd Fighter Wing family. Once a Nomad, always a Nomad. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please rise as we observe 1 minute of silence in remembrance of our fallen heroes. As a reminder, all military personnel will render a salute during the playing of taps.
heroes. Lord, I ask you for your comfort for these families who have joined us today. Press upon them your marvelous power and of your love. God, your word tells us, do not fear, for you are with us. In our times of weakness, may we always remember where our strength comes from. Bless all who are with us today, and let us never forget as we leave this place. We are proud to be, once a nomad, always a nomad. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Spencer, for those inspiring words, and Lieutenant Colonel Retired Matheson for the beautiful rendition of Amazing Grace. Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the United States Air Force and the 33rd Fighter Wing are proud to honor and remember those we lost in the Khobar Towers attack 25 years ago. As you leave today, we ask that you continue to pray for and support the families of these courageous men, the brave survivors of the attack, and all of the men and women who continue to serve our great nation today. Thank you all for attending. Family members and survivors are invited to attend a reception in the 33rd Fighter Wing Heritage Room across the street in the Wing Headquarters building. For those interested, there will be a remembrance ceremony at 13:30 today at Props Brewery in Niceville for Chief Master Sergeant Retired Jose Matos. Thank you for attending today's memorial service.